Hello and welcome to Ted Lasso Post-Match. Whoa! This is the podcast where me and my good friend Vinny, we sit back, we relax, we have a laugh, and we talk through the latest episode of Ted Lasso, a season 3. This is the second last episode. Second last time you're going to see our faces for a little while.
Yeah,
I have a point to say on that in a second, but Vinny, how are you?
I'm very well, Aidan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm amazed. I'm actually having a good day.
Good. I mean, my day's barely started, so I
Yeah.
can't really comment.
Yeah, we're 4:30
I
in the
moved
Arvo
from
here.
my bed to the desk, and that's all I've done.
That's good.
So it
And
is
and you watched Ted Lasso.
nearly
So
9:30. Yeah,
yeah, very good. So
half nine,
the
as
episode
us Brits say, which Ted pulled up on in the episode. I'm not
wait,
just being weird.
9:30 is different. Like what?
He said it's 9:30 or half nine, as you Brits say.
So Americans don't
He
say
said, "Why
half
do you,
nine.
why do you?" No, they say 9:30.
I mean, I say both,
There was
but
a whole point about it in the episode, Aidan.
sorry. I actually watched this the second it went live because I know it comes out at 9 a.m. on Wednesdays in Australia, and I knew I had to leave for work at 10:15. And I was like, okay, if it's going to be like an hour and 5 hour and 10 minutes long, I'm going to get there at like 9 on the dot and watch it because I knew I wouldn't have time to watch it at any other point in the day. So, yeah, I was there like the second it ticked over to be available to watch, and I was like, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, see, I can't do that because I think it comes live in the UK at like 1 a.m. Or
Yeah,
it
that would
might
be right.
be like,
I
even
think
like
2.
some obscure point in the morning. And I tend to work a lot of early mornings, so I'm not staying up to watch that.
Yeah, it's
So,
okay. We get it. You're a fake fan. I wanted to start.
whoa.
I wanted to start this week's show, following up on last week where we were sort of discussing is the show over? Because yeah, I've googled it. No one's confirmed anything. It's madness. But what has been said is a little bit of change of I don't want to say change of heart, but like in some interviews, rather than just saying, "Oh, we don't know," but it's always going to be a 3-season thing. So Jason Sudeikis recently said that that's it for now. Like a heavy emphasis on the for now. And then Brendan Hunt, Coach Beard, very recently said they're going to take a bit of a break, but they underestimated the reaction to the show and how fun it is to make. So that makes me think they're going to go tools down for a little bit. Maybe they're going to go do some other work, take a break. And then maybe in a year or so time, they might start crafting up a season 4 because I can imagine they'll come at it with like an angle of let's do a whole new plan. Like let's plan season 4 to 5 or 4 to 6, which I'd appreciate.
Yeah. I think I don't know how they're gonna go with it. I think that I'll have a better idea or a better vision after next week.
Definitely.
Seeing where they end this season.
Yeah.
Like, to me, depending on how they end it, we'll either say that's it, or there's more to come.
Well,
but I don't know.
I think this is going to end with a very much that's it kind of ending. I think they have crafted
That's
all
what
the
I'm
storylines to this
anticipating.
point, but that doesn't mean we can't start new stories next season. Question for you though. Could you see just with how this episode kind of ends off and sort of a theory that we've been playing with for the last few months, could you see Ted Lasso without Ted Lasso? Because we know Sudeikis has kids in America that he wants to be with, and we can kind of get an idea of where this plotline might be going for Ted. What do you think?
I don't think you can have Ted Lasso without Ted.
Think?
No.
Ooh.
I mean, that's like, I don't know. That's like having to bring in the other podcast is like having Doctor Who without the Doctor. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, there's Doctor Light episodes.
Yeah, but we've had Ted Light episodes,
yeah.
but it's not the same. If Ted's not there, the episode falls apart, in my opinion. Or like the show falls apart because he's sort of, all of these characters have changed throughout the course of the seasons because of Ted.
Yeah.
And his way of approaching things and his way of coaching. That if you just like took Ted out of it, I'd be like, it doesn't make sense. Especially because it's called Ted Lasso as well.
my thing with it is it's all a lot of it. I think season 3 in particular has been very much more about the Lasso effect than Ted Lasso himself, because he's not been a very big part of the season. And it almost feels to me like there's episodes in this season that felt a little bit like, let's experiment with what it's like without Ted around. And I think some have been more successful than others, but I think as long as they kept the spirit of what Ted originally brought to it, and I mean, it'll be great if Ted like rocks up for an episode a season or something like that. But I think they could do it without him. I think they just have to really plan what they're doing, and I'd like them to pick sort of a
But then
new
who would be
central
the head
character.
coach? Yeah.
Well, all I'm saying is someone just quit their job of head coach at West Ham, and he's having a redemption, and he's on his way back to Richmond. I reckon he's got more chance of being head coach than Roy.
I'm not happy about the thought of that, so
we'll see where it goes. Let's crack on with the episode. It's called Mom City, which is
let's go.
sort of a play on words from the episode last season called Man City, where it was all about the dad, Jamie's dad, which all sort of comes back in this episode. But this episode is a little bit more about the mums. So let's focus on Ted first. We'll go through character by character, all their little storylines and stuff. His mum's in town, baby, but he's clearly got some mommy issues. So episode starts, and this is where I really get the farewell to Ted vibes. Okay, seeing the effect that he's had on his little town as he's walking around. He's like, "Hi, hey, howdy," the guy that's like wanker, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Did you get that vibe?
Yeah, I did. I think throughout the episode, with like Ted's bits, I was thinking, it feels like almost like a swan song, you know?
Yeah, it does. It does. And then his mama rocks up at the end. Which at first I was like, oh, she was just sat there waiting. But I guess she kind of planted herself there intentionally. I don't know. There was a little bit of sitcom.
I wonder how long she was sat there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, she's like, I know his house is around here somewhere.
Convenient.
I'll just sit here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't dwell on that.
Yeah, we can move on. I liked how okay, so clearly from the start there's some mummy issues between him and his mum. We don't really know where it stems from. We don't know too much about his mum. We always know a lot more about his dad. So I thought this was a good thing. We've always said it's a show about dads and bad dads, and it's nice to sort of have this episode come at it with a bit of an episode about mums and about that thing.
Yeah.
That thing that they call mums. Sorry. I feel like I can't talk properly today.
It's all right.
How good was Danny when he's dealing with Ted's mum? That was fire.
Oh yeah, Danny was great. Danny is great in every episode, though, to be fair.
A cutie.
He really is, especially with when Van Damme's putting the mask on to protect his nose, and Danny's just sat there waving at him.
Yeah. I love all the conversations about Van Damme's mask as well. That's so funny. It's so good.
Like there was, the comedy was spot on. I really enjoyed this episode, but Danny was just great, flawless, like he's in every episode.
yeah. I think a few of the jokes early on, particularly with Ted's mum, didn't land for me. But I think for me, this episode started off quite rough, and I was like 15 minutes in, and I was like, oh no, this could be the second last Ted ever, and I'm really not enjoying this. But as the episode got moving, it sort of clicked a bit more for me.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it by the end of it. There's a lot I like about this episode. Anyways, he takes his mum to the pub where not a lot happens in this scene. All right, but what I do want to say does happen is we see a shot of a house on the pinball machine, and it's spinning. It's in a tornado. It's a little like American wooden house spinning. I'm gonna come back to that later, but I just wanted to plant that seed there because there's Aiden's got like
isn't
big
that
brain.
Isn't that Wizard of Oz?
It is.
It's a Wizard of Oz pinball machine. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So we'll come back to it. We'll come back to the whole.
Okay.
There's this galaxy brain moment Aiden's gonna have at the end of the episode.
Listeners, stay tuned.
It's huge. It's huge. His mum decides to stay in London whilst he goes to bloody heckin' Manchester. Yes. And from that point on, Ted's sort of story takes a bit of a backseat throughout the middle part of this episode. There's like a scene where he's texting her from the hotel room where we have another great Keeley "Welcome to Manchester" video, which is just so funny. I love how wherever they go, she does it. Was there one in Amsterdam? Am I making that up?
I think there might have been. There was definitely one in Liverpool.
Yeah, there was one. Liverpool was like the first one, but I think there was one earlier this season as
Yeah.
well, and it might have been Amsterdam, which is just so fucking funny.
I really enjoyed that they kept that running.
Yeah, it's such a good runner. I love it. But yeah, okay. So later in the episode, you know, we'll get onto the Jamie stuff later, but he does help Jamie sort of come to terms with his relationship with his dad. And I think in doing that, for me, is what made Ted sort of click on to him needing to figure out his relationship with his mum. And so when he goes back, he does the whole "fuck you, thank you," and eventually she admits that Henry misses him. What did you think of that?
Yeah. So initially, when Ted gave, obviously, like you said, we'll cover Jamie's story, but when Ted was having that chat with Jamie, I was like, finally, a bit of like Lasso wisdom, you know?
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have been really light on that this season, and I have missed it. And you know, him just having that nice chat with Jamie, I was like, it's all right. It's here we go. Like really excited.
Yep.
And then like I agree. Like I think that in turn helped him develop himself. And I really liked the conversation that he had with his mum. I just thought like it caught me off guard a bit, the fact that he was swearing at her.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not Ted.
It's like, this is
Ted
harsh.
doesn't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I liked that it didn't turn into a full-blown argument. Like his mum was like, thank you for telling me. I'm annoyed you didn't tell me sooner, sort of thing.
What do you interpret that argument as sort of being about? Deep thoughts.
I don't know. That is deep. That's a deep question for this early.
I know. Oh, it's early for you. It's late for me. It's
exactly.
Well,
I've not had time to dwell on it. But I will say that it caught me off guard, and the episode again, I think it's like third in a row, made me cry. and it was that scene in particular, that scene and another scene just earlier on, but that when all of a sudden she says like, your son misses you, and Jason Sudeikis, phenomenal.
What a
phenomenal
performance there.
Ted. Yeah. And that got to me. I was like, oh.
Yeah. But
I thought it was a really great scene. I really didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I can't quite put my finger on what the general sort of message from that conversation is. I think it's maybe got something to do with either holding your parents accountable or like respecting or that, you know, that things get passed down from parents to kids, you know, like shit habits get passed down. I think that's sort of where it's
almost
going.
like, like if a parent has some level of trauma and issues, if they don't confront that, that's going to get passed on. And quite often that is the case. Like you see patterns in families and you don't even realize until you sort of look into it.
Yeah.
And I think that was very much Ted looking in on it and seeing the patterns there.
Yeah, like each family has like views and stuff. Even like things like political views and stuff just get sort of passed down because it's what you grow up with.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I think you get to an age where you notice that. And I think it was good for Ted to confront his mum about all these issues and stuff. And I thought it was just a really strong scene.
Yeah.
It was so simple as well. So simple.
Very. And speaking of simple scenes, we then have a very short scene at the very end of the episode, which gets cut a little bit short, but it's the reveal scene. We always get a twist scene between Ted and Rebecca, and we've all been like, what's it going to be this year? They teased it at the end of last season. And Rebecca, she's looking at that pyramid.
Think about that scene?
What did I think about it?
Yeah.
Well,
because even Rebecca says, she's like, we always have this chat.
yeah, we always
She's
have
like,
the
it's
chat.
time.
She
And
was.
then she's like, I have nothing.
It's a good twist, and I genuinely didn't see that twist coming. Although you kind of could, like I didn't, but I feel like it. There's a few things that are sprinkled in there. In that she's the one waiting for him. She's looking at the bloody pyramid that I keep going on about, the pyramids and triangles, and then she turns around and Ted's there. And now every time they do these conversations, they do them from the same angle, right? And so there's like this side-on two shot of them, and it's always Rebecca on the left, Ted on the right, because Rebecca comes into the office. But of course, this time the big sort of foreshadowing thing is that Rebecca's on the right and Ted's on the left.
Yeah.
They've switched it up, and I know this is like a subtle thing, but these guys are kind of smart, and I'm pretty sure in the first 2 seasons of these scenes, Ted has been wearing his Richmond kit, and in this version, he does not have his Richmond jumper on. So, is Ted about to say, I need to go back to the USA?
That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think after that scene, I think that they're not going to do Ted and Rebecca.
I agree. Yeah, that sold me.
Like, you know, I think that obviously throughout this season in particular, I think they've really been hinting towards it. But after that scene, I think they're not doing Ted and Rebecca. Ted's going to go. He's going to say, because he says at the end, I've got something to say. Yep. Then obviously, dramatic cut.
Oof. Well timed.
End of episode. And I think that's what he's going to reveal, especially following the conversation that he has with his mum. You know, and it's about family and about parents and kids, and you know, it goes back to his kid and everything like that. I think it's just he's going to go.
Yes, and
if he comes back or not, I don't know, but I think that's how the season, how next week's going to go.
I've also kind of clicked onto, we were saying the through line of the episode is sort of how parents, the stuff that they do and the issues that they have filtered down onto their kids. And you think that and the fuck you, thank you he's had with his own mum, and obviously her then saying that Henry misses him. Do you think that then has made him be like, I actually need to be there for my kid? Because if I don't, like he's basically kind of growing up without a dad.
Yeah. And, you know, we've seen that in this season, Henry's had some issues with like bullying and stuff, but not being bullied, like being the bully.
Yep.
And, you know, that's something that, you know, Ted hated. Like Ted wouldn't stand for that. But the fact that Ted's not around, it's clearly having an effect on Henry.
Yep.
And probably a negative effect. You know, this is just how Henry's acting in the moment. But long term, it will affect him. And I think Ted's realizing that after confronting his mother. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued. I don't actually think we're going to resume this scene. I think we're going to start the episode in a different way. And then he's just going to announce it to everyone, which will be nice. I like...
They're big fans of doing that. They like to cut away from important sort of chats and let the audience fill in the blanks.
And
they did it weeks ago with Colin and stuff.
Literally about an hour ago, I just finished writing an article for Collider, literally about that and about like the scenes that they've sort of been skipping and a bit of the reasoning as to why they could have been. So that ties in nicely. A little plug there.
Plug.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't get anything from the plug. But Rebecca, okay, so that's that Ted and Rebecca scene. But Rebecca sort of gets she gets a couple of other scenes in the episode, but only sort of one story beat. I want to say
she's very much like a side supporting character in this episode, which I still enjoyed. I enjoyed her at the football game and everything, but she does get one sort of randomly placed scene, but I liked it.
Yeah, the girls are back, baby. Go the girls. We got Bex and the former secretary of Rupert arrive at Rebecca's house, and they want to talk, and we don't know what it is, but all we know is that a seed was planted last week that his secretary had quit or left, or whatever, because
Yeah.
he'd had that new secretary. So
Yeah, and then
curious.
obviously last week he tried to make a move on Rebecca,
Mm-hmm.
and she shut him down. And, you know, earlier in the season, we saw that he was cheating on Bex with his PA.
Yep.
And they've all come together.
We're taking down
So,
Rupert, baby. Let's go.
yeah, this could potentially be Rupert's downfall.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will ask you, obviously, like, just to briefly cover Rebecca a little bit more, is obviously, was it last week or the week before? I think it was last week. She said that she didn't care about beating Rupert anymore.
Yeah.
Do you think she is gonna like seek revenge, or is she gonna be the better person?
Well, I think there's a difference between seeking revenge and giving justice for people who are like doing misconduct in the workplace and stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
if you know, this secretary has been obviously mistreated by him and, you know, sexual favors or whatnot, and that's been happening whilst he's been with Bex, and then he tried to crack on with Rebecca last week in a formal setting. It's like, yeah, this guy's a fucking creep. Like this guy's a weird dude.
Yeah.
Like taking advantage of his status. And I think next week, I don't know if they've said, but I assume next week is going to be against West Ham, and I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm assuming so.
I can't wait for them to take on West Ham, and like at the same time, Rupert's like being Me Too'd, and it's just fucking chaos as Richmond takes down West Ham. That's what I hope happens.
I think it'll either be Richmond versus West Ham again at Richmond's home, or it'll be, because it's you know, they established in this episode that Richmond have a chance of winning the league, and it all comes down to the last week. So usually what happens is that like the last games are all played at the same time, so no one can be like, oh, we just need a draw, that's fine. So I think it'll either be Richmond versus West Ham, or they'll both be playing at the same time, and we'll get like some sort of cross cutting, you know, a nice little montage sort of thing.
But I think you're on the money in terms of them playing each other, purely because we've only seen them versus each other once, and then obviously they're the main two rivals in the show. And we also, season 1 finale, we were playing with that whole like the games are at the same time, and they sort of halfway through the game realized we just need a draw. So I feel like I don't think they'll repeat that same move. Well,
we shall see next week.
We shall see. You can be laughing at me next week.
Can I just say that back in episode 1, I said that Richmond might win the league. So can I just say,
and I said,
let's see what happens. Yeah, because you know they're nearly there.
My track record
after this episode, so
it looked crash hot.
I should be a writer on Ted Lasso. Watch next week and it all comes crashing down.
Well, I was a writer on Ted Lasso in my dreams, and I got sad because I let Brett Goldstein down with a bad script. All right, okay, let's move on to my boy Brett. That's a good transition. Jamie, Keeley, and Roy. Let's do these guys together because it's all sort of Jamie's story, but Keeley and Roy are tacked in there with a couple of big scenes as well. Jamie ain't right. All right. So we've got we start with a conference. Roy's loving the conference, and Jamie's just like in about the it's all the team. The team's making me look good. You know, he's a bit of a little sado, and in the change rooms he keeps being a sado, and then Roy is like, "Oh, change rooms now!" And
shouting is his love language. That's what Beard says.
And yeah, Jamie just cries into Roy's arms. In like, there's moments in the crying where it's like actually really sad, and there's moments where it's so fucking funny, and it's just this weird balance. What did you think of the start?
Yeah, I felt quite sorry for Jamie. I felt like he was having a little bit of a burnout. And yeah, him bursting into tears, I found funny for Roy, because Roy clearly did not know what to do. He was like, "Oh fuck!"
Oh, and then when Will walks in,
so funny.
and he's like, "Will, you missed a good one."
And then Will's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, I just loved it. It was a really great scene.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of this whole episode is very Jamie centered to
Finally.
me. And yeah, finally, because he's been such a great side character throughout the whole of series 3.
Definitely.
It's been really nice to have a Jamie centered episode, and an episode that, like, you know, he loses his way a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's, you know, we've said, like, he's had such good character development throughout the show, but particularly in series 3, like, he's been a very good supporting character, both like just like on the football pitch, but also just in the show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not going for those goals, he's passing the ball.
Yeah.
He's being like, you know, he's making all those moves. And he did sort of lose his way in this episode, and I just thought it was a really great story. It was nice to see a bit of insight into the world of Jamie.
It was a great joke where he was like, I only scored 1 goal and it was meant to be a pass. Can we just set that right? We should retract that goal.
It should be
doesn't
striked.
Count.
Yeah.
Anyways, off to Manchester, which is obviously Jamie's former side, and Roy and Keeley.
And his home.
Yes, and his home. And after a movie screening where the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow is played at the end, Roy and Keeley follow Jamie through a yellow brick tunnel. There's things happening here. Just take note of where we're going. It will all make sense at the end of this episode, okay? They follow, so they end up at Jamie's mum's house. And this shit is just so cute. Such a homely, cute vibe there. Seeing Jamie and his mum just like bond, the big hugs. It's also just feels so like real and raw. And she looks after him, giving him a bit of words of advice, just as a good mum should, which is which is what Ted needs to do with his son. I think, you know, it's sort of mirroring that.
I would like to say one of my favorite bits in the episode was when it cuts to him lying on the sofa with his mum, and he's like, it just really upset me. He said it was blonde.
Yeah.
And he's just talking about his hair.
You know, the blonde, Jamie's hair, straw-like. That's the other seed I'm gonna plant there. It is all gonna, Vinny. I know I sound like I'm talking fucking nonsense right now, but when I get to the end of this shit, you will understand.
You're literally like Charlie Day in It's Always Sunny with the wall of strings.
Yeah, I've got a wall here, and it's just like this yellow brick.
I'm very intrigued to where this is going.
It's good. There's we sort of glossed over the montage though, where they do follow Jamie, and that was funny. It's like got that great song, and they're hiding behind cars. Yeah.
No, but like it's only Keeley that's hiding behind cars.
Roy's just strutting.
Normally,
yeah.
And Keeley is hiding and bouncing between cars and stuff, and I was just cracking up. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I was like, they've been following Jamie for a while. Surely Jamie knows, like, because you get that instinct, don't you? Surely he knows that someone's behind him.
Yeah.
And obviously that's when he like, it's not long after that he jumps out at them and he's like, why are you following me?
Yeah. I love like the spooky flickering lights in the tunnel as well. That was spooky and good. Big fan.
No, I really liked that. I cracked up. Yeah, we get to see a bit of Jamie's home life, and it's really nice. I don't know about you, but I obviously, like, we've seen Jamie's relationship with his dad a few times in the episode, in the show, and I thought it was really nice to see his relationship with his mum and how like he has such a good relationship with her.
Yeah.
Compared to how like toxic his dad is. It's really nice that he has like a really supportive parent as well. I just like, it warmed my heart a little bit, you know.
And I really felt like the casting of Jamie's mum was perfect. Like they just seemed like a perfect, you know, like both of them, as much as they're like lovely and like amazing, they both come a long way, right? They're not like the smartest tools in the shed, you know what I mean? Like they both kind of have that vibe about them, but it's so wholesome. Like, I don't know, I just thought the casting was perfect.
Yeah, what I got from just seeing Jamie with his mum and everything like that is that obviously, and like, because I think Jamie even asks her about his dad. What I got is that, you know, obviously Jamie's dad was not a nice guy, and Jamie and his mum sort of all they had was each other, which is why their bond is so strong, and like she's really supportive and protective over him and everything like that. Because that's literally her life, and that's why she's got like a big wall of his photos and everything. Like, you know, she lives in Manchester, yet she's cheering on Richmond because of Jamie and everything like that. And I just think, you know, I just really liked that. I really like those subtle sort of sprinklings of something a lot deeper than that, than just him and his mum having a nice relationship.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought that was one of the highlights of this episode. And okay, so before we go to the Man City match, we have a scene with Roy and Keeley in Jamie's bedroom, which had a fantastic reveal.
Yes.
There's two reveals in this. One's funny, one's sad.
Yes.
The first reveal is seeing Roy on the door, and then it's like, oh, we'll just keep talking, do our thing, and then the door closes, and then there's Keeley fucking Jones with. Does she have like soccer balls on her tits or something like that? It's like clearly like a.
What I liked is that
a sexual photo.
Yeah. But what I liked is that obviously this is Jamie's childhood room. The fact that he had a poster of Keeley and a poster of Roy on his wall. And now, like, Roy's his best mate. He dated Keeley.
Yeah.
You know, he's really he's pretty much manifested his way to where he is.
Man's kicking goals.
That.
Well, he's assistant kicking goals, but he's kicking goals. Yeah. But in that scene, the second big reveal, a bit more of a sad one. And again, this comes from a whole thing of the showrunners keeping and reserving information and cutting away from scenes at certain points. They've now revealed that, you know, igniting the spark between Roy and Keeley may not be as simple as it may seem. And whilst they may have slept together in last week's episode, this week, Keeley doesn't seem... Did you get the vibe that Keeley wasn't wanting the relationship?
Quite reserved about it, yeah.
What did you think of that scene?
I guess I understand. Obviously I want Roy and Keeley back together, so I was a bit like, come on, like,
please,
you know. I was like, oh, why can't they just be back together? But, you know, I think that the writers are approaching it in like a realistic manner.
Yeah,
you know, Keeley was really hurt by Roy. And now Roy's like, I don't want to be just friends. And Keeley's a bit like, I don't know, like, how to go about this. You know, I do feel for her.
I think it makes sense of I think it makes sense of the end of last week now. You know how I said it was kind of shot in like the kind of horror way where Roy's like sneaking up behind her, right? It's just like, imagine going backwards and getting back with Rupert. Like, why would you go backwards and stuff? And I was like, I don't know where that's going. They just got back together. I think that is sort of showing, I think she's kind of realizing there that she's got to be sure that this is the right thing going forward. So I think it does make sense of that last scene. Now she's sort of at this point where she needs to talk with Roy about it and make sure that they're heading in the same direction and they're not just going to have this happen again. What were you going to say?
I think that... No, I just think that... I literally can't even remember what I was going to say.
Oh, fuck. I just chatted your ear off for 2 minutes and ruined everything.
Yeah, Aiden cut in and that's it.
Well, it's hard when we Zoom. On my end, I started talking before you did. So that's Zoom for you. How about that?
That's just because you're in Australia. It's not Zoom.
Yeah, Australian Wi-Fi is literally a bin. It was really sad seeing Roy be like, I don't want to be just friends. That made me sad.
It was nice to see Roy being, you know, a bit more like vulnerable.
He's got a heart.
Yeah.
He's found a heart.
I will say that. Oh God.
I wonder what other character in a show or movie or book.
I wonder where Aiden
been in search of a
have
heart.
the listeners cottoned on to where Aiden's going with this.
I don't know.
No, I did. What I will say is that after, obviously, it's nice to see the Jamie, Keeley, and Roy dynamic. Like, they are such a good trio together. So I really enjoyed that. And what I will say is, like, obviously, at the end of like Jamie going home, you know, they all leave, I really enjoyed that Roy wanted to give Jamie's mum a hug. And then Keeley was like, no, come on, babes.
Yeah, that'd be fucking weird, bro.
It cracked me up. And I also think that was like Keeley does still like Roy.
Yeah.
The fact that she's like, no, she called him babe. And she was like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no. And I found that so funny. I was like, this is great. The fact that Roy was like, one for the road.
And we also we should have said, have sort of a bit of a seed planted that I think will come back next week, in that Jamie saw them holding hands. So
yeah.
I think he's going to question whether they're back together, and that love triangle is going to have one last little spark underneath it that will eventually end up with Roy and her back together. But yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We shall see. Let's get to the Man City game, shall we? Which started with, honestly, the most impressive crowd, like CGI / real life shot ever. Like this huge wide shot that comes out and it just pulls back, and you've got Rebecca, Higgins, and Keeley in the stands. Like, I thought it looked incredible. I was literally sat there like, have they actually gone to a game and filmed this? But no one in the stands was looking at the camera. And then it goes back to our main characters who are sat there. So clearly, like, they've just... The crowd replacement CGI, I think there's a software called like Mass or something that's really good at doing this sort of thing. Just looks incredible. This episode in particular is like the best looking footy game, I think.
I thought so as well. Defo. The whole the whole crowd, like the stadium, everything looked amazing. And can we just, I don't know if I'm going ahead here, but can we just respect Pep being in it? I fucking love Pep. Pep.
Oh, the coach. Is this the City coach?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Pep.
I love what
I really enjoyed that. Obviously, the camera kept cutting to him, but he was just sort of by himself on the side of the pitch. So it was like, oh, they're just using clips of him. What's going on? And then he goes and has a chat with Ted, and I was like, yeah, boy.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw him, I was like, I think I've watched one or two City games, like on TV, and I play FIFA, so I like roughly knew like his outline. I know that he wears that like all black and like bald dude. And then when it was showing him, I was like, oh man, they've got a really good like just actor to act as him. Like they've done that really well. And then when he started talking to Ted, and like the guy clearly isn't that experienced of an actor, I was like, oh no, this is the real guy. Like,
yeah, no, that is Pep.
Yeah, purely based on just how like a little bit wooden he was acting with Ted. But it's just like, it's a fun scene. It's cute.
It is a fun scene, and I enjoyed that, he had a chat with Ted, and it basically came out that they have very similar coaching tactics.
Yeah.
Because he was like, it just matters that we're pushing the lads to do the best that they can do and be the best people that they can be. And I was like, this is great. I love this. It's especially great because Man City won the Premier League the other day as well. So
bang bang.
It's like a good little representation for them.
Very clever.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that. I really liked that they got just one of the biggest coaches in the world to actually be in an episode.
I know. He must be a fan, hey? Like they must have like reached out and be like, hey, we're Ted Lasso. And he's probably like, yeah, I've seen you. I see you, Ted Lasso. Yeah, he must have been.
But I really enjoyed that.
Let's sort of wrap up the Jamie discussion. We got 2 points here still to really hit. Which is, so Jamie's playing, he gets injured and he limps off. And this game is, I think, the second best footy game in Ted Lasso, with the season 1 finale being the best. I think this is the second best one. Like the idea they got an early goal and then they were just under fire for the entire rest of it. And like Van Dam was just hitting them away, grabbing them left, right, and center. Like this guy was on fire. And Jamie gets injured, goes off. Ted gives him that sort of dad pep talk that we were talking about. And I like the whole tension the whole time.
They want to put on a sub because Jamie can't, Jamie's being a really good player on the pitch. Obviously, he's under a lot of stress from both like his old teammates at City and also like you know, the majority of the Etihad is full of City fans.
Yeah.
So they're all booing him.
And he's waiting for his
You know,
dad to
like-
just rock up in there as well.
Yeah, so Jamie's like really under fire, basically. He's under siege.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he's still playing really well. He stops a City goal and, you know, yeah, he gets injured. And then they want to put on someone else. And obviously Ted being Ted's like, no, just give him a moment.
Mm-hmm.
They have that nice chat. And to be honest, I was thinking like they're playing a man down for quite a while. I was like, this is not going to go well. This is going to, their 1-0 lead is going to go. I was like, oh God. But you know, I was tense, you know.
It was very tense, really good.
Yeah, and I don't usually get tense at Ted Lasso football games.
No. Not since the season 1 finale. Seriously.
Yeah, I was really tense and I was like, but obviously Ted's coaching worked out. Jamie goes back on, sort of like that he uses the hate that the crowd are giving him to fuel his performance.
Yeah.
It was nice. I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he goes through and he scores that goal, which gives him a little bit more comfort closing out the game, which is good. And just closing out on that, I just want to say the orange kit, it just needs to fucking go. If they do Ted Lasso season 4, get rid of the orange kit. It's so gross, man. It's so gross. Redesign it.
Gross. Yeah, it is grim.
Yeah.
I liked, then obviously once they get 2-0 up, they bring Jamie off.
Yeah.
And that's the other bit that made me cry, is when he's coming off and the City fans are cheering him.
Mm-hmm.
And
wholesome,
you know, because obviously, yeah. And I got really emotional, and Jamie was getting emotional, and then I was like, oh.
You were like Jamie at the start of the episode.
No, I was like Jamie in that scene. You know, I wasn't sobbing, but I was like, it brought a tear to my eye, because I was just like, it's wholesome, and he deserves it, you know.
He does. He's a goat in this episode, and he does have one final scene where all the boys are going out for drinks, 1 beer, 1 water. That's the rule. And he sat in like the medical room, getting his foot iced, and Roy and Keeley join, and it's just another sort of scene of the wholesome trio there. But one thing that I want to draw your attention to is that Ted stops in the window.
Oh, here we go.
And he sees them. No, this isn't to do with my Wizard of Oz thing. But Ted stops in the window and he sees them, right?
Yeah, I noticed that scene, yeah.
This time last season, after the Man City game, Ted stopped in the window and he saw Jamie being abused by his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a really neat, tidy parallel to this episode. It's another parallel to it, along with, and I don't know what this fucking means yet, but the blue moon. There was a blue moon at the end when they lost to Man City in that episode, and it was a full moon. And then in this episode, when Keeley and Roy are chasing Jamie, you can see there's like a massive full blue moon that's like shining down on them. And I'm like, what does that mean? I don't fucking know, but it's there, and I'm saying it.
I don't know if that means anything.
I don't know, but
obviously the crowd were chanting Blue Moon as well.
Oh.
At the Etihad, and obviously Manchester City's colour is blue. So,
well, what do they chant Blue Moon for at the Etihad? Is that just like one of the City songs they sing?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, maybe it's just something they've been doing to complement the City episodes. You know?
Yeah, potentially.
There's something there, and it can be as basic as that, but yeah.
Yeah. That's why I think maybe your Wizard of Oz theory has more ground to it than that. I think
my Wizard of Oz theory has
really
a lot fucking going on. All right, let me tell you that much.
Right, come on then, let's hear it.
Well, no, I'm gonna rattle through the Nate stuff real quick. And yeah, I'll sprint through it, and then you just quickly give me what you think of the Nate storyline.
Okay.
But the Richmond lads, they approach Nate. Isaac wants 75 fucking kebabs, right? And the Richmond lads are like, come back. We all did a vote. We want you back at Richmond. And Nate's like, nah, fam. He's clearly a bit scared of how he is with Ted and Beard.
Yeah.
And he's enjoying working at the restaurant a little bit too much. He's weirdly good at it. He likes to give away nuts, but he's more invested in the football. Eventually, Jade forces him to get fired, and so he writes an apology letter to Ted that's 6 pages long. We'll leave it there. Let me know what you think of that stuff now, and then we'll get to the beard scene after that.
Okay, so I thought it was odd that he was working at the restaurant, but also I understood it. Like, he quit his job.
Needs money.
He just gets a job with Jade, you
Yeah.
know? And probably after all the stress of managing West Ham, working in a restaurant as a waiter probably isn't, you know, it's just quite an easy job compared to that. So, you know, I understand it. I did quite enjoy that during his shift, he was watching the Richmond game and he, you know, is getting quite into it. And yeah, I was like, this is the Nate that, you know, I've missed. This is the Nate that, like, you know, we need back. We need that Nate back at Richmond. We need the Nate that's really passionate and, you know, really just sort of in the moment about it all. But it's obviously like a very good coach at the same time. Like that's the Nate that we need back. And it was nice to see glimpses of him coming through the episode.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm quite glad that he got fired from the restaurant, because obviously I just don't think he should be working there.
Yeah.
Especially after seeing him getting more and more into Richmond, and obviously he wants to go back to Richmond, so
he's coming home.
Yeah.
He's coming
and
home.
Obviously he has that scene with Beard, which was hilarious to begin with.
Oh yeah. I forgot it was funny. When you said that, I was like, how on earth was that scene funny? But yeah, when he opens the door and he's just like
I was cracking up at that bit.
Yeah, so we get Beard's sort of dark history reveal, because we really don't know that much about Beard.
No, Beard is a dark horse, yeah.
A weird dude. He could be a dark horse or he could be another animal, but we'll get to that later. But he
Go on
then. So that Beard basically sort of realizes that he needs to give a second chance to old mate Nate, after Ted had sort of had convinced him and showed him videos of Nate making a fool out of himself, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was just like a really dark but really, I think, necessary scene to sort of see, to get to know Beard a little bit more. And yeah, talk to me.
No, I agree. Yeah,
cool.
It was a really nice scene. I think one thing that Ted Lasso does really well throughout the course of the show is their use of Beard, because he is such a main character, but we know nothing about him.
Yeah.
And even having the Beard-centered episode last season was so fun, but I still couldn't tell you like a lot about him. And you know, I just think it's so clever. Like, he's such a quiet character, and then he comes out with something random. And I think just the way that the writers utilize Beard is great. And especially when it comes to scenes like this, it's just great. Like, and scenes a few episodes ago where he's talking to Henry, it's, you know, you don't expect it from Beard.
Yeah.
And that's what I really, really like. I think that they haven't missed a single note with Coach Beard. And it's great, because he's so funny, but he can be so real, and so he is such a great character. And I think he's really underappreciated. You know, I don't see a lot of love for Coach Beard out there, but he is just, they've not missed a note with him. He's perfectly utilized in the show.
Yeah, funny dude, and it's sort of, because he's so much like that, it makes the darker stuff with him stand out all that more, I think.
Yeah.
Shall we Wizard of Oz this shit? Okay.
Right, let's hear Aiden's wacky theory.
So this is the episode where I caught on to it, right? And I sort of sat there and was like, what's going on with this? So this episode, yeah, the Wizard of Oz table, close up on the house being whirled away. We had the song
On the
Somewhere of the
pinball, yeah.
Rainbow. We had the yellow brick
Mhm.
tunnel. We had fans making fun of Jamie's hair. Is it straw like? I don't know. And I was just sat there and I was like, what the fuck does this mean? And so I sort of was looking at the characters and I was like, who could be what? Who's on the adventure? And then I was like, oh my God, I'm so dumb. Right? Dorothy, after a storm, she's transported from Kansas to a new world with her dog. Ted, after his divorce, which is a bit of a storm in his life, he goes from Kansas to a new country, bringing his hairy ass friend that always stands up for him, but we don't know that much about, along with him, right? And it's their journey through this world. Then we have Jamie, the Scarecrow. The Scarecrow is in search of a brain, right? He's not that smart, but it's in the end we kind of learn that Jamie, like, though, yeah, he's not the smartest tool in the shed, but he's just like a little bit naive, and he just needs to learn, and he can learn, and we've seen him throughout the show grow and become, yeah, learn more. You know what I mean? And then we have Roy, obviously the Tin Man. He's hard as nails, hard exterior, and he's got to learn how to have a heart and how to sort of wear that heart a bit more on his sleeve. Then we have Nate, who is the Cowardly Lion. Okay, he's lashing out. He gets power hungry, but inside he is a coward, and he's doing that stuff because he's a coward. Right? Does all make sense?
Yeah. I don't know where you're going with it, but
and then there's I after sort of realizing this stuff, I like jumped on Google. I found a Reddit post that literally said all that stuff and then so much more. Like Rebecca also starting out as the Cowardly Lion. Rebecca having like there's apparently a lot of close-ups about Rebecca's red heels. Apparently, I think Keeley is like the Good Witch or something, and then Coach Lasso is the Wizard of Oz versus Ted being Dorothy.
Who's the wizard?
Yeah, so Coach Lasso's the wizard. But yeah, it's just this big popular theory, and I just think it is like one of those things where this show is so inept with culture and media, and they're constantly drawing references, whether it's like a symbolism thing or a literal reference in dialogue. And I just think this is one of those things where it's like, oh, like when they started the show, they looked at like the Wizard of Oz format, and because that's sort of what you do a lot of the time with storytelling. You look at what's come before and you modernize it.
Yeah.
And I seriously think this is one of those stories that they looked at and spread it out from there.
Yeah. I mean, I see it. I do see it.
So
I still don't know.
Me ramble for 5 minutes, Vinny. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I see it. I see the connection. I don't know what the point of the connection is, you know.
No, it's just there. It's just like a cool like thing.
Yeah. But I'm like, is there a point to it?
Well,
that's what I want.
Maybe if we look at the end of The Wizard of Oz, we can figure out the end of Ted Lasso.
So Ted goes back home.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, where do the Premier League come into Wizard of Oz?
Well, they would be. You know, when I look at Ted Lasso, I like to think it's not a show about football. I like to think the Premier League, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I think that, you know, there are similarities. And I think that that's one of my favorite things about Ted Lasso is how it has all these subtle little nods. And it's so easy to not pick up on it, but it's so easy to pick up on as well. Like if you're really looking at it, like the whole Sense and Sensibility thing. Like if you didn't know about Sense and Sensibility, you'd still watch the show and understand it.
Yeah.
You know, but if you know about that, or if you read that theory or whatever, then you can look at it with like a deeper meaning behind it. And I think that's what the Wizard of Oz theory is as well. Like, like I watched the episode not picking up on any of that, and I just, you know, was just enjoying it. And I still got everything that you got from the characters, but because you picked up on the Wizard of Oz story, you're like reading further into it. And that's what I like. I love this about this show. It's so layered.
It's so fucking clever. It has to be true. Like they have to have done it. Like Ted being from Kansas, like it just has to be. There's too much to it. Do you know what I mean?
Does that make Rupert the Wicked Witch?
He could be. Yeah, that would make sense. We keep calling him Darth Vader, but hold on, let's have a look. Ted Lasso, Wizard of Oz. I'm gonna get this up for you. Let me know. Tell me now what your MVP is, and we'll follow up on this in a second.
My MVP. So I have a main one, and then I have like my secondary one this week.
Yep.
So my secondary one is Ted, just for that little sort of chat he had with his mum.
Yep.
But my main MVP, it's not going to be anyone else. Of course, it's Jamie Tart.
Jamie Tart, Jamie Tart. Yeah.
Like, it's his episode. And I was chuffed with it. I really enjoyed watching it. I really liked this week. And yeah, Jamie just, rightfully so, he stole the show for me. And do you know what I will also say as well, very, very quickly, is that we've said throughout this season that they've tried to cram a lot of different stories in every episode.
Yep.
This episode didn't feel like that for me.
No, it was balanced well.
Like, yeah, and it felt very cohesive. Like, Ted's story worked well with Jamie's, and obviously Roy and Keeley's were interlinked, and then Nate's was also interlinked, and it just worked. I didn't feel like there was too much going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it worked well, I think.
Yeah, even though it was over an hour, it was really well balanced. Who's your MVP?
That would be Mr. Jamie Tart. That has to be. Don't need to explain any further. He's the GOAT this episode.
No.
He came a long way.
This is his episode.
It is the Scarecrow's episode. So I found this Reddit post, and I think this Reddit post was written mid-season 2. So it's not up to date with all the season 3 stuff, but obviously it's been a popular theory that's been around for a hot minute then. What I will say is that the Wicked Witch, bearing in mind that Rupert wasn't really a big part of the show at this point, but the Wicked Witch was listed as Jamie's father. The witch torments the group. In the climax of the movie, she has them trapped and sets fire to the Scarecrow. He burns as the soldiers of Dorothy's group look out in horror. Quickly, Dorothy splashes water to save Scarecrow, also splashing the witch. The witch melts into the ground and is no longer a threat. Toto runs over onto the witch's empty fresh to ensure she's really gone. Jamie has been tortured by his dad for years. Due to that, the team is tortured by the dad through Jamie's terrible behavior. In the climax of the episode Man City, Jamie's dad corners Jamie and the group in the locker room. Dad lights a fire under Jamie and repeated verbal abuse. Until Jamie punches him, knocking him down. Beard jumps in and escorts Jamie's dad out of the locker room. See what I mean? Like, Toto is doing his thing at the end of the stuff with the Wicked Witch, and Beard does it here.
I think the Wicked Witch has got to be Rupert, though.
I think so, but I think like definitely his dad. They were playing with it there. I think.
Yeah. But Rupert's the big bad this season.
He is, but just knowing that relationship between with Jamie being the Scarecrow in this situation, and how the Wicked Witch sets fire to the Scarecrow, knowing that that's there. Obviously, they couldn't do like a Jamie Rupert thing. Like, there's just no real connection there. So having the Wicked Witch maybe be Rupert, but also the Jamie's dad can embody it as well. That's just a neat little thing. How cool!
The Ted Lasso writers just pulling it out the bag here again.
They're fucking clever, mate. Fucking clever. You know what else is clever? Me and you for making this bloody podcast. This is Ted Lasso post-match. We've only got one episode left. Hopefully we'll do some more down the line. But for this initial run, we've got one episode to go. So make sure you follow us.
Season finale. Potentially the last ever episode of Ted Lasso. Yet to be revealed.
Big sad.
Send us your theories on how it's going to end.
At Ted Lasso... Well, no, Lasso post-match on Twitter.
Lasso post-match on
I've handed over to Vinny because I've ignored the Twitter. So that's now Vinny's thing.
I'm not doing much better, but send us your theories.
Yeah. And follow us on there. Right. And you reach out to me and Vin, and even if you comment on the YouTube video or whatever, just like knowing that people want more. I mean, we see the stats. We know there's actually quite a few people listening, which is great. But, you know, actually hearing that people want more will go a long way for us making more, maybe rewatching season 1 and 2 down the line. And maybe we'll find a bit more merit to this Wizard of Oz thing along the way.
Yeah, defo. Hindsight.
Big time hindsight. All right, Vinny, we'll see you next week for the season finale.
See you next week. Season finale. Let's go.
Let's go.